Level 3 kennel enrichment program duties are known as specialized skill activities, and that includes agility exercise training and group supervised group play. Also, volunteers who have stayed at the shelter for a prescribed amount of time, which is typically 6 months of consistent volunteering or 200 hours of consistent volunteering, may be given permission by the shelter staff to work in the investigation kennels. Everything we've spoke about up till this point is applicable to dogs that are in the adoption kennels. But for advanced volunteers, you may also work with the dogs in the investigation kennels, which is really the essence of the program in its original form, was to reach out to the dogs in the investigation kennels. By engaging in activities such as agility training and group play, you are stimulating the dogs in a mental and also in a physical way. These are the best types of stimulation because when the dog is returned to its kennel, it's going to have the most thorough workout it possibly could have had. Agility training utilizes special tools such as hurdles in order to engage the dogs in a positive physical activity. It also gives them a mental activity as they are trying to navigate the obstacles. As far as group play goes, group play is something that is relatively new in our shelter setting at Indianapolis Animal Care and Control. There are trained moderators who run the play yard, and the group also requires runners to bring dogs in and out. If you engage in this activity, you will be given special instructions. For dogs, the group play benefits are absolutely enormous. Group play is something that we've tried very hard to matriculate for the Kennel Enrichment Program at Indianapolis Animal Care and Control. When dogs are engaged in group play, they have the opportunity to socialize in a way that they would not otherwise be able to have in the shelter setting. As a matter of fact, the dogs involved in group play at the shelter may actually be getting more socialization than other dogs who are kept in homes throughout our city, because they're getting the chance to experience new dogs in a large quantity in a setting which may help them learn more dog skills and be able to better communicate with other dogs when they encounter them in real life. Again, group play with dogs is a specialized skill activity and should not be attempted by volunteers who are not properly trained. So, of the tips that we've described here so far, I just want to say that this is not comprehensive. All dogs are different in their ages, their temperaments, their resourcefulness, and the way they handle stress in the shelter. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are going to be dogs that you may experience that fall outside the range of having a predictable response from any of these approaches. If you do come up with something or come across something that is too difficult for you to think through at the time, or confounds your logic and goes outside the lengths of your own personal knowledge, please reach out to another experienced team member in order to try to solve that issue. And hopefully the next time you come to the shelter, you will have a better understanding of how to approach the dogs that you want to work with and improve their skills. Again, our main goal is to help alleviate kennel stress in these animals in any way that we can, and if possible, also make them more adoptable along the way. We want to strengthen their skills, if not simply maintain them, so these dogs will be able to make it out of the shelter alive. So I'd like to point out that multiple volunteers working on the same project can get more work done in a more efficient fashion. If you do have the opportunity to team up with other team members while you're at the shelter, you can really get a lot accomplished. So let's say you just have a two-person team. What a typical chain of events would be is something like this. One volunteer takes the dog outside, the second volunteer removes the solid waste from their kennel, delivers a scented blanket to the kennel, a treat, and a toy. Meanwhile, the first volunteer has taken the dog outside for a bathroom break. Approximately 10 or 15 minutes later, brings the dog in, and then goes to the real room. In that time frame, the second volunteer has prepped the real room as well, which is to say they made sure the floor is sanitized and the couch has a brand new linen on it that's clean. We also want fresh water in the room. We can turn off the overhead lights and turn one of the soft lights on for a more calming environment. And then we put in a CD to listen to of soft and calming music. These types of music have been provided by several different vendors. The idea behind the music is that it is produced at approximately 50 beats per minute and is orchestrated with simple chords that don't have dissonant tones and are usually created on instruments like piano or acoustic guitar. It is simple and is soothing. It is at a rate that is similar to the resting heart rate of an animal, and it really works wonders to have this calming music going on in the background that disrupts the otherwise noisy environment of the shelter. After your time in the real room is over, whether you have spent it snuggling on the couch with your fuzzy buddy, or teaching them the basics of sit and down, or simply giving them a Kong to chew on and lick, then volunteer number 1 and volunteer number 2 could perhaps elect to give their dog a bath. It's definitely easier to do with 2 volunteers, but not necessarily so. I'd like to give a tip to those volunteers who are trying to give a dog a bath in the wintertime. If you bring a dog in and give them a sponge bath and a baby pool, that can go miles to improving not only the way they smell and the way they look, but the way that dog feels. So once your bath time is over with, or once your real room time is over with, one volunteer will take the dog back outside again for another chance at a restroom break. Hopefully volunteer 2 has picked up the solid waste in the dog's kennel and delivered a scented blanket, a toy, maybe a treat. The volunteer who has taken the dog outside will pick up the outside waste and any toys that are left outside before coming back in. And finally, the dog gets returned to its kennel, and then you record on the kennel map that the dog has been taken outside. One of the tools to assist in keeping track of which dogs have been worked with on each day, or which dogs have made it out of the kennel in each day, is a kennel map that was developed by one of our volunteers. So the kennel map just reflects the number of kennels and their position in the kennel. So when a dog is taken out, you simply put a hash mark on the number of the kennel that corresponds with the dog that was taken out. Also on the sheet, we have listed morning and evening treat sweep and morning and evening scent therapy, so we know if those items have happened. That way, we don't have dogs getting 20 or 30 treats a day when different volunteers come in. Also, that means that if one volunteer works a specific shift that does not overlap with another volunteer, the 2 volunteers know which work has been done and which ones haven't. So ultimately, hopefully, each dog will have the opportunity to make it out of their kennel each day, in addition to having treats and scents given to them at appropriate regular times. When you show up, make sure you sign the logbook. That way your hours of volunteer are recorded for the shelter and also for our program. And then you check the outdoor kennel runs to see what is available, what's occupied. You may also check with the volunteer coordinator to see what kind of help is needed, or if there are other team members that are there, check to see if they would like any help. If you don't engage in an activity that requires your immediate attention, then you can go to the kennels, select a dog who has not had any activity for the day, or a dog that you like best. It could be a long-term dog, it could be a stressed dog, it could be a dog that just reminds you of your dog at home. You can't pick the wrong dog to do enrichment with. All of the dogs in the shelter need some sort of enrichment, and even though as small as it seems, it will make a world of difference to them. You'll want to make sure that you mark down any outside scent and treat activities that you do in the kennel or with the kennel animals, so that other volunteers may know what has or hasn't been done for that day. Also, just as a general, you can help get the dogs out of the kennels for brief outside time. You can do a treat sweep. You can provide scent therapy. You can distribute and collect toys. You can work one-on-one with an animal in the real room to play, relax. You can give them a massage, work on obedience, or bathe as appropriate. And then you can also pick up waste and toys in the yard and also offset laundry usage. Remember, we are guests here at the Indianapolis Animal Care and Control. We are volunteers for them as well as volunteers for Casa del Toro. So our priorities are first to follow Indianapolis Animal Care and Control's rules, secondly to follow the rules of the Kennel Enrichment Program, and third, our priority is to work with the dogs. We need to follow the rules of Indianapolis Animal Care and Control because we are guests in this facility. The Kennel Enrichment Program only means that we have focus on the particular task that we want to do. But we are all volunteers and guests here, and we need to make sure that our actions are all professional. The direction of the Kennel Enrichment Program is fairly simple. We work together and communicate and maintain our program in order so we can improve the quality of life of dogs while they are at the shelter. We communicate with each other by utilizing the kennel maps and also via our private message boards, email, or social media. I have to say that at the time this program was created, social media was not as big of a feature in the society that we live in as it is today. There were no Facebook pages about what to do about the animals and so on. I am certainly glad that things have changed in that direction, so there are many more ways for us to engage with each other. But that's the point of the Kennel Enrichment Program, is for us to engage with each other and work together as a team so we can get more done for these dogs. I would like to emphasize the importance of handling the dogs appropriately while you are here at the shelter. There's no rough handling, there's no negative reinforcement. We encourage everybody to have your own comfortable heavy rope slip lead with you or a flat collar with a leash. Slip leads like this can be purchased at your local tractor supply store or other farm equipment type store. There are rope leads for horses that are very similar, but these are nice and comfortable not only on your hands but comfortable on the dog's neck. You can also purchase them online, and they are frequently referred to as a British leader. We do not use choke collars or prong collars, and we discourage the use of flexi leads. And as far as gentle leaders go, those need to be used in an appropriate training fashion and by a skilled handler. We do not use chokers or prong collars simply because, as stated before, we do not know the experience of the dogs that we have in front of us and what happened to them in their lives prior to going to the shelter. If you have a dog in front of you that has already had a negative experience with a choker collar or a prong collar, and you try to use this as a means of communication with that dog, you can do severe damage to the dog and the bond that you are trying to establish with that dog. As a matter of fact, some dogs are so soft that if they received one correction from either one of these instruments, you could set them back in an irrevocable way. That is not our goal. If we use positive methods only, we are guaranteed to stay clear of any unintended adverse consequences that may come from a physical negative correction. That is not to say that in the hands of a right trainer and in the proper venue, that tools such as a prong collar or a choker collar or a gentle leader cannot be effective at training a dog for the results that you want. However, with the shelter system, unless a volunteer is coming in and working with the same dog 7 days a week exclusively, then there is no way to guarantee there will be any consistency in the training, which is another reason why we don't use these tools. So, by example, if trainer A came in with a prong collar and worked 1 hour a day, 1 day a week with the dog, and the rest of the time that dog was handled by volunteers not using a prong collar, the dog would totally be confused every time the prong collar was brought on, and at best would only respond to the handler that used the prong collar, but those results would not be generalized to other handlers. So we steer away from these methods. As far as flexi leads go, this is something that you commonly see in public with small dogs. So this is a retractable lead that is clipped to one dog, and then on the reel part of it that the handler has is a lock mechanism so they can allow the lead to go out and come back as they so choose. There is also an automatic reel back on the reel that retracts the lead when there is slack. And I know from personal experience by using a retractable lead that if your dog is larger than the weight capacity that that lead can handle, and that dog gets excited and wants to bolt to the end of that lead, then when that item breaks, you are liable to get injured in addition to having to chase your dog around that has now gotten loose. So word to the wise, that is not necessarily a reliable tool. If you do choose to use that tool, make sure it is size and venue appropriate for your dog. Also with the gentle leaders, again, there is a specific training method to getting these things onto dogs and walking them around with them. If this is an item that you are using, make sure you are versed in how to use it properly. That way you don't injure the dog or otherwise set up a system of negative reinforcements that will detract from the positive training that you are trying to do with the dog.